welcome to Destiny City Film Festival special event, the festival and the Filmmaker Connection. We're delighted to have you all here with us. My name is Emily Nakata-Allman, founder and executive director of Destiny City Film Festival. We have a great panel, great group of panelists here today to chat about their experiences, both the film festival side and the filmmaker side, and kind of talking about that relationship between those organizations and individuals, and how we can support each other and how we can, further the film community and build connections and continue to make great events and great films available to the public. So we're really happy you're all here. I want to mention that subtitles are available. If you click on the bottom bar of your screen, you should be able to turn on the subtitles. We are recording this panel and we will be posting it on our YouTube page and social media probably in the next week or so. So with that, again, thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass it over to Ambriehl, who is the marketing coordinator for Destiny City Film Festival and is going to be moderating the panel today. Take it away, Ambriehl.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm very excited to speak with these filmmakers and programmers about the Festival Filmmaker Connection. As Emily said, my name is Ambriehl. I am a film programmer as well as DCFF's marketing coordinator. And then this conversation is really just kind of geared toward increased transparency between audiences and filmmakers and festivals, because there can often just be a lot of mystery surrounding the process of submitting your film and how they get screened and how decisions are made and how festivals contribute to the long-term success of a project. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and get started with some introductions. And then also, hopefully at the end, we may have a bit of time for audience questions. So keep that in mind. If you do have any questions, just throw them in the chat. And let's get started with introductions. So we can start with Cara. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and anything else you'd like to share.
So, hi, I'm Cara. Pronouns. I work as the artistic director at Milwaukee Film, which presents the Milwaukee Film Festival annually in the spring now, and the Cultures and Communities Festival in the fall. We run a cinema. We do a whole bunch of other stuff, filmmaker serving programs, youth education serving programs. We're very busy. Despite there being all this slowdown, we're still very busy. I'm also the current board president of the Film Festival Alliance, which is a professional development entity for filmmakers, for film festivals to really do professional development with one another as an industry. So I will try not to speak for other festivals, but I may speak to them if my specific festival is not relevant to the question being asked, or if there's more to kind of offer in terms of context. But very excited to be here with you all. And to share how we can kind of, keep this sustainable and keep films and audiences connecting, which is really all of our goal.
Awesome. Dorie, how about you next?
Hi, I'm Dorie Barton. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to be with all of you today. I'm a writer, director, producer. I've made 2 feature films now. My first film, Girl Flu, had a really wonderful festival run all around the country and internationally. And now my second film, Welcome to the Show, has been in a few festivals already, and we'll have more news soon.
Wes? I think you're muted, Wes.
Hi, I'm also a filmmaker, a writer, director, producer. I've been making films for about 10 years now, and festivals have been a huge part of my career and building an audience. And so, for me, it's pretty essential.
Great. And SJ?
Hi, I'm SJ Chiro. I live in Seattle on unceded Duwamish land, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a filmmaker. I've made 2 feature films. The first one is Lane 1974, which premiered at South by Southwest. It won the Fapresky Award, which was amazing for New American Cinema. And I recently released my second feature film, which is called East of the Mountains. So that is like currently in a festival situation. So it'll be great to talk about that. Before that, I made a lot of short films. So like Wes, film festivals have been a huge part of my life and my career's life. And also, I just want to say that I am currently in New York City at my son's new apartment, which doesn't have Wi-Fi. So I'm on my phone. So sorry if things get wonky, but hopefully it'll be fine.
Awesome. Thank you all. Very excited to speak with you all. So very glad you could join this panel. And I'm glad SJ and Wes, you both kind of spoke to what my first question is, I mean, since we're all here, I am assuming and hoping that we all do view film festivals as being very important and essential. So I just kind of want to start a little bit broadly. Anyone can answer this. How do film festivals play a role in the success of a film? And just kind of speak to why you think they're important, especially filmmakers, how they've helped your particular films.
Well, I mean, I have had a long and very fruitful relationship with the Seattle International Film Festival. Every single film of mine, except for the first one, has played there and has been very, it's been instrumental in launching the film sometimes if it's a short film, or just getting the film out, like getting the word out. The Seattle International Film Festival has been really supportive of local filmmakers. And one of the things that they used to do, which I was able to participate in, was the Fly Film Festival, which I don't know if you guys know about this, but so if you have a film in the film festival, you are asked, or I don't know how they did the choosing of who was going to be, but they would choose 3 narrative filmmakers and 1 documentarian. And you would make a film basically for the film festivals in like 2 weeks or something like that, very short amount of time. And they would, in my case, they provided 35 millimeter film. They provided all the technical, all the equipment, everything. And I just had to find people to participate and write the piece. But, you know, I mean, that's one way, one unconventional way that filmmakers feel really supported and involved in festivals.
Yeah, and I just want to add too, for short films, a lot of times that's the only way that you do get an audience, unless maybe later you get on like Vimeo, pick of the week or whatever. But for short films, that's really the only way you're going to see them, the only way that filmmakers can share them. And for majority of independent features as well, majority of independent features do not get theatrical release. So, and if they do, it's very limited. So really the only way that you're going to get theatrical audiences in all those different cities around the world is at festivals. So that's a huge part of why festivals are so essential for, I think, independent cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. And I for me, I know that with my first film, one of the things that was so important to me about having my film in festivals was attending the festivals, actually being in person, getting that chance to, you know, like seeing it in a theater is magnificent. And really having that direct relationship with the audience, being able to talk with them afterwards. I love a Q&A, you know, I love hearing and feeling the reactions as they're happening. My films all really feel to me like a conversation with the audience. So literally being able to do that is absolutely thrilling. And then also being on ground and being able to meet other filmmakers, and what an exciting feeling that is to run into somebody whose film you've just seen or whose film you're going to right then, and being able to ask them, you know, how did you do this? What was that shoot like? What, you know, just really getting in there. And there is such a wonderful community feeling between all people who have made a film. All directors have this innate thing in common that, you know, kind of only each other can really understand what that experience feels like, and meeting together at the place where we're all watching each other's films together, to me, is hugely invaluable. I've made wonderful friends and lifelong connections with other filmmakers at the festivals, and programmers, and just, yeah, the human connection.
Yeah, I think Wes and I both just premiered films recently, and they were all online. But now I think Wes just had one in person, and I'll have one coming up in person. And it's so important for those reasons that you were just talking about. Like, we're grateful that film festivals could find a way to keep going even during the pandemic, but being so separated from your audience and from other filmmakers has been really painful.
But yes, very grateful that that they're finding a way to continue and yeah, still connect with the audience. But yeah, I miss everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for one know that I cannot absolutely wait to just get back into a theater with film festival people, because I mean, especially film festival audiences are so different than just casual movie theater audiences. So very excited for that. But I kind of want to start just at the beginning of really everything with festivals and filmmakers, and that's kind of the submission process. So this question may be more so for the filmmakers. Cara, obviously, feel free to hop in. But I'm wondering, how do you decide where to submit? I mean, there are thousands upon thousands of festivals. So how do you get to know festivals and narrow them down? And obviously, there's money involved. Do you budget? Just kind of walk me through that process.
I feel like it's probably a little different for everyone. It is a lot of money, and I wish that I had been more thoughtful and prepared about budgeting that when for my first film. I've been a little bit better with my second one in terms of making some real choices. I remember at a certain point with Girl Flu, I really just started to submit to festivals that I wanted to go to. I read about them, heard about them, talked to other people. If I wanted to be there, I submitted. So for me, it was all about sort of imagining myself, yeah, actually physically there. And I've let that guide me with this film too, that is just starting its festival run. Yeah, an affinity for the programmers, an affinity for the place and the world that it is. Yeah, that's kind of, I had to just sort of personalize it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that, any independent filmmaker is going to, by the time they finish their film, usually they're just so happy to have finished the film, because it's a long haul. It can be a struggle, and it can be a real financial struggle as well. But I hear what you're saying about the second time around, because then you realize, like, oh, I actually have to budget for other things that will be coming once the film is made. Once the film is made, that's when the life of the film begins, and there needs to be money set aside for that as well, for sure.
I think researching the festivals and researching what kind of films they make, and I mean, if your film is any kind of genre or niche, then that's really helpful to narrow down whatever that may be. But if it's a really broad kind of general genre like drama or comedy, yeah, that gets really tricky. And I don't know what my advice would be necessarily, because I mean, you definitely want to, if you believe it's good enough, you definitely want to submit to all the major festivals. Because what happens if you get into a major festival, then a lot of the mid-range festival will approach you and they will not charge you a submission fee. So you save a lot of money that way, and time. But of course, getting into those, top tier festivals is really, really like a lottery, challenging. So yeah, I think researching, and I think, Dorie, that's like a really good strategy, just thinking about where would I really want to go and submitting to festivals there. That's kind of brilliant.
I'll add to that a version of that, which is, I think, identifying with as much specificity as you can your audience, the audience for this film, and then looking to see if this festival seems to have that audience. And if they're going to be excited, because if we want to connect audiences and filmmakers, but we all are in films, but we also have to be like, what do we have an audience for? So I often will have films that I'm like, I love this, I love it, I'm the audience. Our audience sometimes isn't quite, or it's not substantial enough to put that expense in. So there's that challenge. So like looking, not only like thinking about like, if you have a film that's set in Wisconsin, please send it our way. Our audience really likes things that are set in Wisconsin, unsurprisingly, but also like, do pictures of the event seem to resemble audiences? What can you learn? And I hate to be recommending research, but at least that's like labor cost, time cost, and not cash costs. But that feels like a piece of this, and make sure it's legitimate. I mean, sometimes it feels like every festival is being accused of being a scam, and I promise you we are not all scams, but there are unfortunately sort of predatory entities on some of the kind of like submission platforms that you just need to, keep your BS detector on, give it a sniff test.
And Cara, on your point about the labor costs versus actual cash, do you have any advice for filmmakers looking to submit to festivals, but they just, the cost is really a huge issue? Do you, have any resources to guide them to for discounts or, just easier ways for them to get into the festival? Or do you recommend them, reaching out? Do you prefer that? Do you not prefer that? What do you think is the best way to go about that?
I think it depends on the festival. I think, if you have a relationship with a festival, if you've shown work there, reach out and ask for a waiver. They ought to be waiving your cost. There are festivals that don't charge a submission fee, that also aren't on your film freeway because of that. But, sort of looking for those, ask your filmmaker friends, people who have similar films that have done well, and say like, what festivals were worth it? You really want to identify, I think, what are the likely possible premieres, because to Wes's point, if once you've premiered, you'll be able to use that as cachet to get those programmers to talk to our other programmer friends and be like, hey, you should consider this for your festival, and really kind of work in that kind of like not blind submission place to be recognizable and known to filmmakers or to film festivals. But, if festivals will often be very clear about what waivers they offer, look for those waivers. This month, it seems like every festival is announcing that they have a LGBTQ plus maker discount or free submissions. So like looking for those opportunities, look at the festival's social medias, look for those kinds of discount windows, and be really clear that if you're asking for a submission waiver, that you're doing so in a way that they have identified that they will waiver. As a festival that doesn't charge a submission fee, a very annoying email I get a lot of is asking me for a submission fee waiver, which is awfully difficult to waive a $0 fee. So just, doing a little bit of that, trying to keep your details straight, trying to make it seem human. When you're reaching out to a human, make it feel like you're also a human who has thought of them as a human.
And I do want to reemphasize what Cara said. So obviously Film Freeway, great resource, but look outside of Film Freeway also. You can find so many more festivals beyond that. And then, so say, okay, we have identified what festivals we want to submit to. Next, a lot of festivals will ask for director statements or cover letters as just kind of additional context about the film. So I'm curious, filmmakers, do you typically provide this? How do you make it effective? And then, Cara, how much weight is really given to those items?
I have never provided one, and the film festivals that I've seen do that, it seems like it's an optional thing, and so I don't know what other people's experience is, but
yeah, I think I always have, because it's requested, so I just do it. And just try to give the festivals as much information as possible. And some of them, I've heard varying things. Some of them say, look, we don't even look at these things, like don't bother. And then some say, they're really helpful. So, I don't know. If it's asked for, I just do it.
I find writing the director statement so difficult. I don't know about the rest of you, but as hard as it is, I just have a director statement on Film Freeway as part of my package. I don't write individual cover letters, but I really do like that process of writing an artistic statement or a director statement for each of my projects, because it's so hard that it forces me to be better about talking about it and how to contextualize it. And so while that is available for festivals that I'm submitting to, I really do that for myself. It's incredibly helpful to figure out not just what the elevator pitch is for it, but how to really talk about it.
Yeah, and how you personally, like how deeply it affects you personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to take back the cover letter. I've never done the director statement. I feel like you absolutely have to have, because most festivals require it.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. It is about the depth of it for you, and I do think it helps convey. I mean, most of the films going through the festival circuit are largely going to be labors of love. That's what we do. That's where we show. That's how it works. So yeah, I think describing what kind of love it is that you put into that is helpful.
Because we're not on Film Freeway, I'm going to speak somewhat. I often get, hey, we've submitted, and I'm sending a note that is specific, right? Again, to that, like, if I am a filmmaker and I have done my research about my audience and understand that this festival has that audience, it's an opportunity to sort of show that, to demonstrate that, like, here's why I'm submitting it to you. We filmed this in Milwaukee. And I'm going to immediately be like, okay, yes, prick, prick. Like finding the ways to sort of tag those keywords that don't maybe neatly make it into a log line or a synopsis. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't yet have kind of a brand as a director, if you're not as well known to this particular festival, make it's extra space to tell them why they should put your film to the top of the pile to watch first and be excited about it, right? So I totally understand they're difficult, but I have a long history of teaching college writing, so I'm going to say it's an opportunity to kind of just do more, right? And making them not super generic, by which I mean that it is super specific to your project and really kind of gives that feel, that vibe, without having to sort of load up a screener and press play. Like what's gonna make someone want to do that?
Awesome. And so, okay, we identified the festivals. We know what we're writing in our director statements or cover letters, whatever they may be. What happens after the filmmaker hits submit? What does the festival do? And of course, this varies for several festivals, but could you just kind of walk us through the screening process? Like who's involved, how many people, just what does it take?
This is incredibly variable from festival to festival. Festivals should be giving you some sense of what happens, right? There should be an understand, date, if nothing else, like here's when you can expect to hear from us, and here's how and when and if you ought to reach out to us in the in-between. It's a slog, I'm gonna say, and it's hard. People always are like, you program, that means you get to watch great films for a living, and I'm like, I also get to watch a lot of films that are not my taste, but are good for our audience, and I have to figure out whether that works. And I also and sometimes there's films that just aren't a fit that I give time to, because we don't charge a fee and because we're not on a platform. We handle submissions a little bit differently than we would if we do choose to charge a fee in the future and go on a platform, which is a maybe still. We're going to be paying people to do that watching, to do that thinking, to do that rating, and to be kind and thoughtful. Festivals usually give you a sense of like how many people watch the first round, who watches the first round. And we try to build screening committees that represent our audiences and that are varied from our audiences, as opposed to being just, these are all college students, but our festival has a whole bunch of, I don't know, empty nesters. Like really trying to build a representative screening committee is something I think a lot of festivals are trying to do, to make sure that we're getting the best ratings and readings as we can. Different festivals have different structures of hierarchy that films kind of go through and up, and obviously constraints. I will say, John Gann, I'm crediting John Gann here, of Real Plan, always says there's a festival for every film, but your film is not for every festival. And there's often really challenging curatorial things. I say this, and I know it is not nice. It's not nice when you hear rejection. A no never feels good, but sometimes that no is like, I have two films that are really similar and they are both great. And this one is slightly better, or this one fits the time limit of my shorts program better, or all these kinds of constraints. And so, you know, it can sometimes be challenging because you kind of kill your darlings in the curatorial process as much as you do in the edit process.
Mm-hmm. And then aside from submissions, I mean, we know that festivals clearly talk to each other and maybe even studios. So I'm also curious just about the solicitation process, from your end, Karen, and also from the filmmakers' end. Like, do you kind of make it a point to network with certain people from festivals, to maybe help the chances of your film being solicited by one that you may not have submitted to?
I think I will say that's a part of your research of festivals, is really looking at their lineup and saying, how many of these had distribution at the time of this festival? It's a little bit of, you're not going to be as in the weeds of it, but like in the fall, how many of these films premiered at TIFF and are on a hot track to theatrical? And these festival placements are part of the promotional strategy for those films. Like, look at the lineup and be like, how much is coming in through this submissions process that I'm about to spend $50, $100, and what does that lottery really look like? But yes, as a festival, you're looking for films at other festivals that seem like they resonate. So we're shopping, we're watching films, we're talking to people, programmers, but also distributors and sales agents. We want to make sure we're providing a really well-rounded program. And alums. I think, I always love when I get a little note that's like, hey, we showed this film. We came to Milwaukee. We loved it. I've submitted it. It's a chance to know it's there, and to look forward to. So I think, be nice to programmers that act like they're human. They are. And if you act like they're not human, or are rude to them, they may tell other programmers, and that's not a good look. Try to be nice.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories about filmmakers filmmakers who have submitted and have gotten really testy and really, I can't imagine behaving that way, but some people, it can be a very frustrating experience, submitting to so many festivals, and, if something doesn't go your way, exactly, there's a human being on the other side, and it's highly ill-advised to whip off a snitty email. That email could really cost you in the long run.
I will say though, like in the past few years, we've gotten we used to always send out, I want to call them notifications of non-submission. That's a nice way of saying rejection. We used to send them out on like Friday afternoon and like escape the office because the phone would start ringing. In the last few years, I don't know, we've been doing a better job of communicating the trickiness and being kind in that notification of non-submission, or people have started to sort of say, this no is not a no forever for everybody. I'm okay, get it, moving on. There's been a lot less of that. So good job, all of us.
Yeah, and I think to your point about doing research about the film festival that you're applying to, I've also heard stories, again, from programmers, from filmmakers demanding money for screening, or, screening fee. And, that gets dicey too. I mean, sometimes I guess it's appropriate, but oftentimes film festivals are really struggling financially as well, and they're not, you know, this huge source of wealth that can just, you know, rain down money on filmmakers. And I wish it were true, but it's, you know, you really have to do the research and understand the film festival, that what you're asking of the film festival and whether or not it's appropriate.
I was an actor for 20 years before I ever made a film, so I am very comfortable with hearing no. I literally never think about the no's. I just think about what's next, and yeah, celebrate the yeses. You can't really let those things bother you, because, you know, like you were saying, it's people making these decisions for very human reasons and myriad reasons, and it's really far less personal than it might feel.
Right.
Yeah, if it's not a right fit for that festival, then it's not a right fit. Just keep going. Don't stop. Keep looking forward.
Yeah, and one other thing, talking about networking, this is what we used to love about going to film festivals, because a lot of programmers from other film festivals show up, and then you're in a social situation and you meet them, and then they're like, oh, I'd love to see your film. You know what I mean? Like this kind of thing does happen. And so I just cannot wait to get back to in-person film festivals.
On that screening fee note, though, I will say ask nicely, be ready for a no. But, you know, increasingly festivals are starting to recognize that we are the only arts field that doesn't pay creators for their work and then charges people to come and see it. So we are a festival that offers screening fees to everybody. So I am able to be kind of snitty there, but I have heard that, you know, if you don't ask, nobody's gonna, some festivals aren't gonna offer you if you don't ask. So ask nicely. Maybe there's a no, or maybe, you know, what you have, maybe don't propose something that's out of range of what you think is possible. You can do some deep research and look at like some financial statements of nonprofits, but that's very nerdy and probably too much. But if you hear from your friends who've shown in that festival, like, hey, did you, you know, sort of just ask. And if somebody is offering you a screening fee, we are not asking you to pay us to screen your film. We are wanting to give you money. You'd be surprised how many people are surprised that we want to pay you for your work. Wait, no, I don't want to pay to play in your, no, it's not pay to play. So just, yeah, confirm, clarify. Some festivals I've heard do that. They're not real festivals. That's fine. But yeah, it's a negotiation of budgets. Budgets are hard. You all know that. Filmmaking budgets are more challenging than film festival budgets sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I've never run into a pay-to-play situation, and I think if I did, I would run away. You know, I mean, like that's just not a good scene.
And then on the note of asking for things, so again, this definitely varies for the festival. But so one, filmmakers, do you ask for feedback on your film, say if it's been rejected? And then Cara, how would you say, like, how many festivals typically offer feedback versus how many won't give it even if it's asked?
I mean, no is the feedback that it's just, it's a very short conversation, usually, when you just get that. But yeah, I mean, that's for me, that's what it is. It's like, it's not a good fit for this festival. But again, I don't make any assumptions about how they feel about me, how they feel about my work overall, what their impression of the film was. It doesn't mean that it's the end of that relationship. It doesn't mean that I don't submit to that festival for my next film. I don't take it personally, but I also don't want to put them through the process of having to respond to what I am guessing probably seems like a question that would take up a lot of their time to write you a response, and they kind of already told you that it's not a great fit. I think there's so many places that you can get feedback from that it's probably, it's best for me anyway to look for feedback from other places, and just keep that particular relationship simple at that point.
There are some saintly film festivals that tell you that they do offer feedback, and that when you're watching to determine programming or to provide internal context and notes and rating, that's very different writing and thinking than providing feedback to an artist that is either constructive for changes or just that is explaining all of that in a way that is understandable, like without all the like shorthand and weird jargon that you have. And so some festivals do, and use part of that submission fee in order to pay for that time and that thinking. They'll be very clear. So I think if it has been made clear that they do not offer you feedback, don't ask for feedback unless you have some sort of extenuating thing. Like if you have a very, very close friendly relationship with somebody, the person that you think is saying this no, you might broach that, but there's a danger there. Also, maybe they should have been invited to one of your in-progress screenings to give you that feedback before the film was done. But yeah, I think it's a really different skill set, and it's something that takes a different kind of time. And I think if somebody is saying, sorry, no feedback, imagine having to write thousands of paragraphs to people about that's a lot. It's thousands.
And so, okay, another question I have is, I think SJ, you said that you've had multiple films at Seattle International Film Festival. I believe you're the one who said that. So how do you maintain these relationships with festivals you've already screened with? How do you keep in contact with them? Do you like to submit to those same festivals, or do you kind of branch out with new projects?
Yeah, of course it depends on the project, but for me, I will always submit to Seattle. It's my home. It's, I have such a deep roots and a deep relationship with that festival. And I'm friendly with a lot of the people. I've taught there, in off season, I've gone into schools for them as a filmmaker to talk to, I even presented a whole entire class, like multiple days, with the education person there, Dustin Casper, who's amazing. You just get to know people in your neighborhood and keep in contact with them. So that's a no-brainer for me. But also, South by Southwest, Janet, who runs that festival, is really incredible about keeping in touch with alumni. And I so appreciate that. There are some programmers who feel like, I don't know, they're superhuman or something, but they really do care about people who have screened at their festival, and they take them seriously and in general, keep the door open. When I was submitting for East of the Mountains, there were a couple film festivals that I screened at Lane 1974 screened at, but then East of the Mountains just didn't fit into this year for whatever reason. They're really scaling back. A lot of people are. And Andrew at Provincetown, when he sent us a letter that said, sorry, we can't screen East of the Mountains here this year. It was a very personal and heartfelt letter. And was, it makes a difference. So I really appreciate those programmers that go above and beyond and really take the time to communicate with and respect the filmmakers that they have screened before.
And going off of that, what, again, varies for everyone, but what does a festival circuit look like to you, or at least what do you hope for it to look like?
Are you talking about this coming year, or like an imaginary ideal festival circuit?
Let's talk this coming year. Things are changing. Festivals are mostly shifting to in person again, maybe with some hybrid features. What do you hope to see?
I mean, I've said this a few times now. So sorry, I'm just repeating myself. I just really want people to be together in the same space. I've always loved the Filmmakers Lounge that they have at festivals. I think that that's going to be especially important now that, you know, the reason that we're going to be attending these festivals is, you know, to be with the audience, yes, but to be with each other. I do hope that something in the virtual film festivals might continue in the future in terms of festivals being able to produce more often than the physical festival once a year, if that fits for certain festivals. I feel like it's probably a fairly cost-effective way of having that festival continue to produce things throughout the year, and that maybe there's some good things that can come from you know, really making that platform accessible to both filmmakers and the audiences. But yeah, in person. I just want to be in person. I still haven't seen my own film projected on a screen yet. So my first in person is coming up at the end of this month, and I'm just, yeah, I'll be there because I want to see it projected.
Yeah, that same with me. I my first opportunity is coming up at the end of this month as well. And I think that Wes, you just had that experience, didn't you? Well, I guess, were you there?
I wasn't able to go, but one of the actors was able to go yesterday. So we actually had two different festivals screen it yesterday in person, which is really exciting.
Wow.
Feels like a turning point for sure. And then I'm driving to Provincetown for the mid-month. So that's going to be the first time I see it with an audience. It's going to be exciting.
And so it looks like we have about 15 minutes left. So I will repeat, if anyone watching has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we can get to those. But I will keep going for now. So Cara, as you know, we've kind of gone through this whole virtual world. And in addition to that, so that changed programming practices a little bit, but also there's just been a lot of changes related to representation in films and what festivals are seeking out, you know, BIPOC filmmakers, LGBTQ filmmakers, women filmmakers. Can you speak to how programming practices have changed?
It's tricky because I think, again, this is so like hyper specific. And I think there's a little bit of an alchemy of audience and audience broadly construed, so including, say, one's board, one's sponsored, like the folks who allow you to continue to happen, and sort of needing to kind of like balance wanting to kind of push forward and prove. I think my good example is like gender equity pledges. I think festivals pushing ahead proved that no, it's not that films directed by women don't do well. It's that you haven't given them the resources to be put on screen to do well, right? I think programmers are also thinking a little bit more, and here's where that director statement or cover letter really comes in, to think about filmmaking that isn't extractive, that isn't, you know, someone with resources coming in to tell a story that isn't really theirs to tell. And as a programmer, it can be really tricky to figure that out. And so any opportunity that you have, if it might appear like this is not obvious, this is not clearly mine, but actually here's why I was invited into this space, make sure that you're making that clear. Or if it is like 100% your story to tell, I'm looking at Wes, making that clear too, you know, right, sort of, but that's all part of just, you know, explaining your craft and explaining that like you're somebody that these entities want to invest in, right? Film festivals take a risk by investing in people who are messy and human. And we've seen our industry, you know, really get rocked by that becoming public, and like give those festivals a reason to be kind of secure in that investment, because it you know, we're investing hopefully for the long haul, hopefully for, multiple years, multiple festivals, multiple projects, coming and visiting schools, coming and, delivering talks and all that good stuff, and really wanting to build those familial kinds of relationships, like between the humans, between our audiences and y'all. So, but and programming practices have changed so much with like changes in technology, right? That I came in as this was already sort of basically happened, but we did used to sometimes still receive DVDs at the beginning of when I started this work. And now, no, none of that. And like just the absence of physical media makes the work different, and makes exhibition still challenging though, because physical media and digital media both have some technical challenges that we have to grapple with. So I don't know if that answered your question, Ambriehl.
Yeah, I think it answered it. And this is for anyone. I'm curious, do you, are there any trends in specifically like the film festival world that you really, maybe trends that you really would like to participate in, or that you identify as being needing to be more embraced by festivals?
I just have to say, this is random, but I'm so happy I'm really obsessed about environment and not printing hundreds of DVD-Rs that are gonna be thrown away. It just makes me so happy that we're not doing that anymore. Thank you, internet. Something good about the internet for once.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are generally a lot more aware now of inclusion. And yeah, that's absolutely a trend I want to be a part of, something that I've been fighting for a long time. And so it's great to see film festivals really start to meaningfully embrace that. Some festivals still have a ways to go, but they can't ignore it now. I think that we've just made so much noise that, it's a bad look for a festival if they're ignoring it.
I'll add to that, accessibility is really sort of a conversation a lot at the exhibitor side. And trying, particularly in the virtual space, this became exacerbated because we were like, on your TV, you're used to there being captions. And if captions are something that enable you to access films, we can provide that. But we need to sort of work with filmmakers or whoever has the rights, whoever is providing us the object, to make sure that we have that. And there can be a little bit of a struggle there in terms of, I will say in front of it, you all, subtitles and captions are not the same thing. They accomplish two different things. But, trying to sort of level up our industry to make films accessible to all kinds of audiences with all kinds of physical and other capabilities and needs and desires. Like I love watching captioned TV, and I was like, oh, maybe I actually love watching captioned film festivals too. Who knew? And as we return to in person, cinemas have that same technology and more. That also could use some improvements still. I hear that there's some that it's sufficing, but it's not ideal. But really trying to sort of expand that accessibility. That's a piece of the virtual. We were able to be in a place where someone who may have a hard time getting out to the theater is able to still participate in the film festival. And we want to sort of figure out how do we keep that while also totally having that filmmaker lounge and being able to sit down and like have a meal and a chat. I want that too.
I just want to add about subtitles too. I only learned it this year because South by required it for their screenings, and I didn't realize how actually inexpensive and easy it is. And the websites like rev.com and other websites, it's very, very reasonable. And after I learned that, it's like there's just no reason why any film would not have subtitles or closed captions. Like I just really highly recommend for all filmmakers to do that. upfront. Don't even wait for festival to require it.
Yeah, it's kind of so funny because I've heard people in the audience say, I don't go to foreign films because I don't want to read a movie. But now we're seeing that people, even who don't necessarily need closed captioning or something like that, appreciate it anyway and watch it that way on their TV. I'm definitely for making things accessible and getting rid of excuses.
And then with a little bit less than 10 minutes left, I do have to ask, Dorie, were you going to say something?
Oh no, I feel like film festivals have always been such a great champion of such a diversity of voices. And yeah, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful that there are film festivals that don't demand commerciality as being, the first box to check. So yes, I'm looking forward to more and more inclusion of all kinds. But I'm grateful that festivals are able to make choices to just support the art, just support the artists, just support what voice is being put out there in the world. And yes, of course, I'm sure numbers and dollars and people, come into play, but but what better place than a festival to be inclusive and to be the front runner of showing how many diverse voices we all have.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's really what made me kind of fall in love with the film festival world. But I do kind of want to wrap up, and I have to ask just what's going on, like professionally in your work, where some of you have alluded to upcoming screenings. So where are your films screening? What are you working on now? Anything to share on that front?
Well, on the 19th, East of the Mountains will have its first in-person screening at the Sedona International Film Festival. So that's really exciting. Can't wait for that. And I'm going to be there in person. So yay, can't wait.
Welcome to the Show is in person at the film festival in Big Bear, just east of Los Angeles, and I will be there to see my film projected and to meet the other filmmakers. So that's exciting. Yeah, and writing the next one.
We have a drive-in screening in Frameline in San Francisco mid-month, which I'm super excited about. And then Provincetown and the theater also mid-month. And I'm writing my next thing now too. So it's just so exciting to have festivals go back to in person.
Yeah, congratulations to all of you. Super exciting news that I will for sure be staying up to date with. And then Cara, anything in the festival world related to Milwaukee Film Festival or any other festival news you have to share?
We're working on reopening our cinema, which has been under construction, and it's practically a different cinema than it was. It's a historic movie palace that is going to be really exciting to put people and films in again later this summer. We do have a festival in September, our Cultures and Communities Festival, that I'm really looking forward to bringing some filmmakers here. I'm getting to have that moment. And then the 2022, that's next year, Milwaukee Film Festival will be in the spring again. We'll be announcing dates. I think it's next week we announce our dates, and we'll be opening for submissions at some point in the summer. So keep your eyes peeled if you're interested in visiting Milwaukee. I keep joking that the 2020 and 2021 festival filmmakers who visited us virtually, we're going to get a bus and everyone's going to come back. But that starts to feel a little bit weird. But yeah, come see us in Milwaukee.
Cara, thanks for having Potato in the festival. It was very exciting.
Our audiences keep talking about it. You're not in our private member group, but your film was one that definitely got them talking. So it was loved.
It's a great film.
Well, everyone watching, please stay up to date with these filmmakers, find them on social media. If you all, want to send me your social media information or say it right now, you can, and I'll be sure to get that out there. Stay up to date with Milwaukee Film Festival and their call for submissions. And I do have to plug, DCFF is currently open for submissions right now. I believe the first deadline is in early July. So films, short screenplays, we have added new categories. So hop on our website, destinycityfilmfestival.com, or find us on the Film Freeway, and you can contact us for anything you need. Go ahead and submit your work. Also, Pierce County residents are able to submit for free, and then Washington State filmmakers are eligible for discount. So again, just find our contact information on our website, send us a message on any social media, and we will get back to you with that information. But other than that, thank you so much, all of you, for participating in this conversation. I'm so just glad to have met all of you. And like I said, I will definitely would love to stay in touch. And for everyone watching, again, thank you so much. And that's all I have. So thank you, everyone. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.